Will Republicans hold Donald Trump to the same standard they did Nixon? Tell us what you think in the comments and please subscribe. You know, Richard Nixon committed treason to become president. And, you know, that's becoming widely known, at least among Democrats. I think probably most Republicans don't know. It never gets talked about in the media, which I'm always scratching my head. Why aren't Democratic politicians talking about this more? But he literally committed treason. He blew up the 1968 peace talks that LBJ had successfully executed between the North and South Vietnamese. He injected himself. He blew it up. LBJ, we've got the tapes now of LBJ talking with Everett Dirksen and with Richard Nixon about that. Nixon committed treason. And then he had the Watergate burglars, as he was heading into the 1968, into the 1972 elections, had the burglars break into the DNC, looking to see if the DNC had the evidence, that secret, Lyndon Johnson referred to it as the X file, that secret file that proved that Nixon was a traitor. The Democrats actually didn't have it. LBJ actually hid it. He thought it was best for the nation that America never know, or at least not for 50 years, that they had a president who was actually a traitor, who had committed treason. But Nixon lied. He ordered the break-in, and then he lied about the break-in, and he orchestrated the cover-up of the break-in, and for that he was impeached. Now we look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we know, has lied about paying off Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Now that doesn't seem like as big a deal as, you know, committing treason by blowing up peace talks. But there's also a fair amount of evidence hanging around that Donald Trump was colluding with at least one and perhaps multiple foreign countries, you know, from Russia. Well, we don't know the whole list yet, but it looks like a number of countries in the Middle East as well may have been involved in Donald Trump's collusion. And he wasn't, the bizarre irony of this is that he wasn't even trying to actually become president. He just wanted to lose by a respectable enough margin that he could make hundreds of millions of dollars building a Trump Tower in Moscow, and that he could continue to make money off his Trump Tower in Turkey and his Trump Tower in the Philippines, and his Trump properties in the United States would be more popular because he'd be the noble loser, right? The good guy who tried so hard. And he committed crimes to do this. Now, we don't have the definitive proof yet, and I say yet because I believe it's coming, that he committed crimes with people from other countries to do this, although there have been over 100 contacts between Russians and Trump campaign officials. So it's getting pretty sketchy, right? At least hanging out with the oligarchs, and perhaps Ukrainian oligarchs, and perhaps Kazakhstan, and God only knows. But he certainly paid off Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. That is a felony campaign finance violation. And frankly, had those stories come out after the Access Hollywood tape, the stories of that he paid, you know, $130,000 each to kill, had those stories come out, he probably would not have, you know, even with the little help from his friends, right, the bots coming out of Russia or whatever, probably would not have won the White House. And so here we've got now a president, just like with Richard Nixon, who committed a felony in the course of wanting to become president, committed a felony to become president, and then covered up that felony, and then lied about that felony to the American people and had his people lie to Congress. To this day, his people are lying about it. And now we've had our John Dean moment. Michael Cohen's testimony was very much like John Dean's testimony back in the Nixon days. Yes, I'm here to tell you I was the president's lawyer, and that's what's going on. So, I mean, this is just straightforward. Crimes, racism, fraud. The question is, will the Republicans at the very least hold Trump to the same simple standard that they did Richard Nixon? I'm frankly very skeptical. Everything I saw in the hearing is that the Republicans don't care. We had Republicans who actually had integrity during the Nixon era. It took a lot to get them there, but once they learned that their president was a crook, they said, enough, we don't want a crook as president. These guys, now, they're defending a crook as president. This is just extraordinary. He knew about the communications between Roger Stone and WikiLeaks, cheered it on, and lied about it. Stayed in continuous contact with Michael Cohen about the Moscow project, all the way up to the election and after. His attorneys altered the dates of events concerning the Moscow project in Cohen's previous testimony to Congress. Michael Cohen conspired with Trump's lawyers before he lied to Congress last time. Cohen doesn't know if Trump was aware of the Trump Tower meeting with the Russian operatives, but he's pretty sure that nothing happened without Donald Trump knowing about it. And I think that's pretty solid. And then we now have seen the personally signed check. So the question I put out there to anybody who thinks that they're a Republican, your part is, will you stay with your party with this absolute lack of integrity, not just at the top, not just with Trump, but right on down the line? Not one Republican, at least in the hearings with Michael Cohen so far, has stood up and said, you know, it looks like what this president did was wrong. At the very least, morally wrong, and fairly clearly a felony, a crime, a you go to jail crime. In fact, Michael Cohen is going to jail for 3 years for this crime that he was directed to do by Donald Trump. Anyhow, it's an extraordinary situation. We'll see how it plays out. But the big question in my mind, will Republicans hold Trump to the same standards they did Nixon? Apparently, so far, no. But I think the time may come that it breaks. I don't know. We'll see how much they depend on Trump and how much they depend on their fossil fuel billionaires' money.